The richest man in the world tried to buy a seat on the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, and on Tuesday, voters told him, and I believe this is a local Wisconsin idiom dating back to the earliest French settlers who arrived in Green Bay in the 1600s, to eat cheese. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Look, there is a lot of bad news right now. Donald Trump announced sweeping tariffs on American allies and trading partners that will escalate his pointless trade war and raise consumer prices. His quack health secretary slashed thousands of jobs at the Health and Human Services Department in what was called one of the darkest days in modern scientific history, gutting crucial agencies like the FDA and CDC that track diseases and keep our food and medicine safe. The White House admitted that they abducted a Maryland father and sent him to a notorious foreign prison due to an administrative error and won't bring him back. And now they're going after wokeness at zoos.
That was in the utterly insane executive order Trump signed yesterday, directing Vice President J.D. Vance to crack down on the Smithsonian Institution by removing improper ideology from its museums, education and research centers, and the zoo. J.D. Vance is now going to patrol the zoo for improper ideology.
Oh man. When they find out male seahorses give birth, they're gonna burn the aquariums to the ground. But I do hope they mean that J.D. Vance will literally be patrolling the zoo, looking for woke animals, telling the male peacocks, gentlemen, aren't we worried our tail feathers are a little feminine? And then the peacocks will say to J.D. Vance, yeah, at least we don't wear eyeliner, bitch. Seriously though, what the hell is improper ideology at a zoo? Trump is starting to get into weird dictator like when Caligula made his horse a senator. And yes, before you Roman Empire freaks start harumphing at your screens, I'm aware that story is apocryphal. I just like imagining a horse as a senator because the voting would be so much more fun, you know? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Of course, no. Of course, if it's a young female horse voting against legislation, that's called a filibuster. And that's today's joke for equestrians. By the way, I love the idea that you'd have to be an equestrian to get that joke. Anyway, the point is there's a lot of bad news, but last night we got a much-needed booster shot of good news right in the arm while RFK Jr. wasn't looking.
CNN projects that the liberal judge from Dane County, Judge Susan Crawford, will win the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, keeping control of the court in the hands of liberal judges and defeating conservative Judge Brad Schimmel, who had the backing of President Trump, Elon Musk, and Republicans.
Voters in Wisconsin have dealt a blow to the president in a key race and giving Democrats a reason to celebrate for once in the recent months.
We saw a resounding rejection of Elon Musk. He was literally buying votes, gave out $2 million checks, spent $25 million, and there was a 10-point victory, resounding.
As a little girl growing up in Chippewa Falls, I never could have imagined that I'd be taking on the richest man in the world. For justice in Wisconsin. And we won.
Sorry, what is that feeling? It's I'm like not grinding my teeth anymore, and like the air is fresh, the light's warm. I can see colors again. Try my tea. I can taste my tea again. Oh my God, this must be how it feels when the news is good. Let me see if it works with alcohol. It was never tea. I'm just joking. It hasn't been tea since November. And yeah, I know. Look, it's just a state judicial race, but I'll take good news wherever I can get it. I mean, I genuinely feel like my body is just a tiny bit lighter today. Last time we discussed good news on the show, I looked like this. I mean, that was before the witch's spell turned me into the hard-bitten frontiersman you see before you. But I want to play that last clip again because it is worth reflecting on.
As a little girl growing up in Chippewa Falls, I never could have imagined that I'd be taking on the richest man in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a crazy thing to imagine. I always knew one day I'd go head-to-head with a South African party ghost who's worth $400 billion and yet can't seem to hire one person who might tell him, hey, maybe don't wear the cheese head. Usually when you hear cheese and Musk in the same sentence, it's because somebody left the camembert out overnight. And that was tonight's joke for cheesemongers. Sorry, why? Why do we play that sound effect? Oh, right, because what other noise would cheese make? Fair point. By the way, this picture is exactly what Elon Musk would look like to Donald Trump if they were stranded on a desert island for 3 days without any food. I have a plan, Donald. I think I can fashion a canoe out of that felled palm tree. I also have a plan. I knock you out with a coconut and then eat your delicious head. Now, normally you might not pay super close attention to the results of a state Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, but it became a huge deal because of how much time and money Musk poured into it. He made the race a referendum on his control of the federal government, and because the Wisconsin Supreme Court will rule on redistricting, which in turn will affect congressional races and control of the House, Musk claimed that nothing less than the future of human civilization was at stake.
What's happening on Tuesday is a vote for which party controls the U.S. House of Representatives. That is why it is so significant. And whichever party controls the House, it to a significant degree controls the country, which then steers the course of Western civilization. So it's like, I feel like this is one of those things that may not seem that it's going to affect the entire destiny of humanity, but I think it will.
This guy has to hurry up and make the robot version of himself because it can't possibly have less charisma than the real thing. I mean, I'm no political expert, but maybe Elon should stop doing in-person campaign events. It's like watching an accountant at open mic night. So, women tend to spend their disposable income on average more than their male counterparts. And then they will use that income to procure large quantities of consumer goods. So in conclusion, I guess you could say, women be shopping. By the way, if you say that an election will literally change the course of human destiny, you have to follow that up with something a little more eloquent than this.
It's a super big deal.
Are you campaigning for a judicial candidate or dubbing a commercial for a Romanian game show? Tune in tonight for an all-new episode of Most Excellent, Terrific, Awesome Time. It's a super big deal. In fact, this election was apparently so important to Elon, he made a point of holding an in-person campaign event, as he explained to the crowd.
And the fact that I'm here in person, like I'm not phoning it in. I'm here in person.
Yeah, but some people are such a drag in person, you want them to phone it in. Like when I was little, my grandma would call me on my birthday, which is so much better than if she'd showed up. This way we can spend the $5 together. No Chuck E. Cheese for us. It's off to the yarn store. Ugh! Why couldn't you have phoned it in? That's not really her. Mine was way meaner. What makes this victory so impressive is the Democrats won by 10 points in a battleground state they just lost to Trump 5 months ago. And not only did Elon pour $25 million into the race to back the conservative candidate, he was literally handing out $1 million checks to voters.
Elon Musk handed out $1 million checks to 2 Wisconsin voters after the state Supreme Court refused a request from the Democratic Attorney General to stop him. Musk gave out the checks last night during a rally in Green Bay to people who intend to vote in tomorrow's state Supreme Court election.
All right. You can just, I guess, take it if you want. I think we'll get you a real one, too.
It's never good when someone says, I think I'll get you a real one, too. Why didn't you bring the real one, dude? I just thought you'd want the hard-to-carry version. But it is a surprising turn of events from the Republican Party, which has long argued, going back years, that the Democrats are the ones who use money and other free gifts to buy votes. Roll the hypocrisy montage.
The thing that concerns me, and this is something that Joe Biden was very good at, has been the last 4 years, is trying to buy votes.
They are back to buying votes.
It is free stuff that the Democratic Party is promising in each and every election.
Romney arguing President Obama won in part because of gifts the Obama administration had given to particular groups in this country.
What the president's campaign did was focus on certain members of his base coalition, give them extraordinary financial gifts from the government, and then work very aggressively to turn them out to vote.
With his poll numbers tanking, President Biden is trying to buy off voters with mass student loan forgiveness.
The White House is also now considering trying to buy voters off by sending Americans gas rebate cards to offset the surge in prices.
It's almost akin to trying to buy voters. It's not the way we go about it in this country.
Getting Democrats to vote on Election Day requires enormous effort. Sometimes it requires financial incentives like walking around money or giving free cigarettes to the mentally ill homeless.
I think it's clear that there's vote buying going on at a scale like we've never seen before.
And by the way, 20,000 is such a partial amount. If you are going to buy votes, start with 7 figures, right?
Hey, Elon took your advice. And by the way, Tucker, the only way you can buy votes with cigarettes is if they're voting on the prison talent show. The only people on the outside you can buy with cigarettes are uncles who show up to Thanksgiving with a baggie full of loose pills. All right, listen, kid, I'll give you some of my Vicodin if you sneak me a smoke out back while your mom's not looking. Oh, it's Grandma. She's here in person. Why didn't she phone it in? So it turns out democracy still has a pulse. The richest man in the world can't even buy an election, even if he hands out game show-sized $1 million checks to voters. People are getting up off the mat and saying no to oligarchy. Elon can go to Wisconsin and eat all the cheese he wants, but all he'll get out of it is some
gas.
In fact, we rarely do 2 callbacks. Let's see how. In fact, he ate so much cheese he
dealt a blow.
Boom, boom. Closer look.